Nobody.
So it's 9 o'clock. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Frank, I'm going to call the meeting to order. The board will silence their cell phones and stow them in their person pocket. Members of the public, please silence your cell phones as well, and we'll rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have the approval of the agenda.
Motion to change it. There are 2 applications for committee.
Point of order, hasn't been seconded yet.
I'll second it. Okay, 2 applications for committees.
Order, we have to vote to change the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Frank?
Applications. Stephen Jacobs for golf and Becky Leonard for recreation and parks.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we'll add those at the end of appointments. Okay. And now we have approval of minutes for December 11th, 2021 and January 12th, 2022.
I have to do them individually.
December 11th, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, any corrections? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. January 12th, do I have a motion to approve the minutes of that special meeting?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion, changes? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, president's remarks. I did have a couple of things I wanted to say. Basically, I want to say thank you to the staff who have supported this meeting happening today, and certainly for Eddie Wells and Public Works for making sure the streets were clear for us to get here safely. And thanks to Debbie, Linda, Josh, Keith, and Howard for setup of the room and the electronics for the meeting. And I wanted to say to the public that it is my goal for the remainder of this board year, which runs through the annual meeting in August, to increase member attendance and participation in our meetings. And to that end, we have agreed as a board to hold our meetings virtually to accommodate people who cannot be here physically. We're happy to have people here physically. Welcome to all of you. And welcome to those of you who are participating virtually. And if there are people in the public who would like to participate virtually but have difficulty accessing the virtual environment, please email us and we can, at directors@oceanpines.org, and we can set you up with the help you need. Now, based on the requests that I've received from members since becoming the president of the association, I've included in the agenda today some guidelines for public comments and the process we use for them in the MS Teams hybrid environment. And so the order of comments for hybrid meetings will be, I'll entertain comments first from the people who are in attendance in person. Second, MS Teams, people participating using MS Teams using the raise hand function of that platform will be second. Third will be members participating through the audio only call-in using MS Teams. And to enter the call-in queue, members are advised to text Josh Davis at the number provided, 443-377-1079, to enter that queue. And then I got the order wrong. Members participating through the MS Teams audio I did speak to. And then fourth would be members wishing to speak via the MS Teams chat function. And the chat function in MS Teams will be used for public comments only. The other chat comments that show up in the chats function will be considered a distraction to the meeting and be considered out of order, as will be extraneous oral comments in the meeting by people not given the chair by the, not given the floor by the chair.
Right.
And so
that's fine.
I've also included in our agenda, the Ocean Pines mission statement to remind us all as to why we're here. And I'll just read that real quick.
Yeah, listen to the mission statement.
Excuse me. Okay. The mission statement is to provide the governance, administration, facilities, services, and amenities that are necessary to make Ocean Pines an attractive, affordable, safe, and enjoyable place to live and work. So basically, anything Ocean Pines, having to do with Ocean Pines and its mission are acceptable for public comments. And then, as our general manager, John Viola, often says, this is a team effort to achieve that mission. It includes the staff, his staff, it includes the board, and it includes other community volunteers. And so we appreciate people who show up in attendance. We appreciate all the many volunteers on our advisory committees and work groups, and certainly the volunteers in this room who sit at the board table. So thank you to everyone here for participating in person and virtually, and for the support that you provide this board and our staff for the work that we do in furtherance of our mission. And so next, that concludes President's comments. Next, we have capital purchase requests. There are none. CPI violations. There are none. Unfinished business. There are none. So under first reading, we have.
You blew past
Sorry.
the jam report.
I'm sorry. You're right. Okay. Sorry. Trying to make this fast. Okay. John?
Okay, can everybody hear me well? Just nod. Yeah, good. Okay, thank you, Colette. As always, like to start off with a couple of pictures of what's going on. Top left, we all know about the guard shack on the Northgate Bridge. We talked in other board meetings that we were taking it down. We've been working on that. That's in progress. They've made good progress. Should be done within a week or two. Obviously today with the snow, but we had 2 other snowstorms. Colette already mentioned, but we had our team out there early last night, and all the main roads were looking good when I came in. Bottom left, Clubhouse, we've talked about that. We discussed, and I got approval to go forward on putting in the wall in between the lobby and the community center. There was too much noise, and also to help when we eventually get our hybrid audio system in there. So they're probably about 50-60% done. Doors should be coming this week. There is a back order on the closet doors, but we don't believe that'll stop us from having this room operational in a couple weeks. This work is being done in-house, Public Works, with everything else going on. Bottom right, we mentioned this the last couple of meetings, the debranching down at the golf course and all the trees around there, helping with airflow, definitely will help with the situations we've had in the past with the greens, with the grass, and as well as the ditches. We found that if we go deeper in there and the work with the debranching and certain trees that we're going to take out, it'll definitely help with the drainage. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is, I always start off with the initiatives and all the slides to follow. This is what I've been updating the board, BNF, and any committees, as well as the homeowners association. So I have here 9 initiatives, which I will update everybody on. And at the end there, I have a summary of the proposed budget 22-23. At this point, we've done the board review, but I'll get into that next. All right, pickleball courts. This is one that's been out there for a while. Turn the page. All righty, we've seen that slide before. It's a little enhanced. So if you look on the left, middle left, That is where the proposed, or now the pickleball courts that we are going forward to put in approved. We're in the bidding process, but there'll be 4 pickleball courts there. If you look at the right side, it was approved January 2021. We received a budget of $180,000. We believe that number is still good in spite of raising inflation and situations like that. So the bids are going out. I actually saw them the last couple of days, working on that. Once we receive them back, we will level them. I will update the board and go forward with a recommendation. We are hoping, with everything going right, that we could possibly have these courts in there for end of May. That's the plan. I'll know more by next board meeting. Turn the page. Okay, audio system, and we could see today that the fact that we went forward and put this audio system in here in the boardroom, which we believe would be a good way to test this out, and it is. And you can see today how well it's working. I use this for all my meetings, and it works really well. So where are we? Well, I got approval to go forward for the clubhouse. And the fact that you can see top right there that we have the screen and the projector already. So all this audio equipment that we're using here today is in the ballpark of $15,000. Going to work with the same preferred vendor that we used last time for this, Mid-South Audio, who took care of all the problems we had when I first came in here. They're excellent. So 15,000. Hopefully they have the equipment. They can get them in stock. If so, I should have it. Josh should have it by the time they finish the wall. We'll know more in the next couple of weeks. But if they have it in stock, we'll be up and running in a month for the next board meeting. Turn the page. Okay, so the guard shack, just wanted a quick update on it. Obviously, that picture was taken at the beginning, but that's coming down. We did the work in-house. It's pretty much almost completed, another week or so. The cost in-house is around $2,500. Nobody's told me anything different so far. There was some power. There's some stuff that they had to do in there that they're working on, but they have it under control. So at this point, that's where we're at. We did look at possibly some ideas, and I'll work with a work group. Anybody that has ideas what they would want to put there. I would have liked to put a flagpole. We're not sure if we have the base for it, but we are looking at something like that. But this is a step in the right direction to start improving that bridge. And I'll talk a little more about the lights in another slide. Turn the page. Oh, there it is. So I talked about this, I believe, last month. What I'm looking at to come forward to the board for approval is at the beginning of the bridge and at the end of the bridge, but the front of both sides, to have 2 high poles with lights, so kind of like what you see in the middle, which would light up everybody. They're all telling me that that'll light up that area better than it is. We certainly need that, but it looks really nice. On the right side there is kind of a smaller pole with the similar type of light, which we're going to recommend, or we're looking forward to, where all those globe lights are that we can't even replace anymore. We would take them, remove them. We would cut down the wooden poles that are there, and then back it with this new pole that would match the 4 larger poles at the beginning and the end of the bridge. So that's what we're looking at. Frank Brown, I've reached out to Frank. Many of you know Frank. He was on the board. He helped me with all the construction 3 years ago. He's actually working with us to come up with some type of systematic plan and sketches so that hopefully I can have that before I go forward. But what I would ask for today from the board, I do want to go forward with this in order to get quotes with everything going on. The suppliers, they're looking for some type of, commitment that at least I have the board telling me I can move forward with this. I'm trying to get an estimate, and I hope to have it this week.
Okay.
Go forward. I mean, I won't do anything without the next update. All right, so we're going to move forward on that. I think this all helps in improving the situation there with the bridge. Turn the page. Recreation Pier and Kayak Launch. This one, I did not put this in the proposed budget. I kind of thought this was on the back burner, but we have discussed this in the past. I know board members as well as committees have come forward the last week or two with some ideas and some recommendations. So we did have our notes on this, Nobi, Debbie, myself, Eddie, of course. We had been looking at 4 locations. One of them was actually the location that the committee has come forward to and a board member, which is Pintail Park. And we did have that one kind of on the top also. So right now I have a recommendation from the committee for Pintail Park. And the parking is there, the portable bathrooms, the handicap access. And we do have some type of pier there now. But the sketch that I've received and what we're looking at, and I think I have it on the next slide, would not be utilizing that pier that's there. That pier is old. It's probably 30 years old, 40 years old. So it is time for replacement. The estimated cost that I'm getting, and the committee did go out and actually did the legwork. We had done our own, but it's approximately $40,000 to $50,000 to replace this pier with a new ramp and a kayak launch. All right, so in the pier that we have now is in replacement. So I am looking at this as a replacement reserve. I do not have it in the proposed budget. Turn the page so everybody can see. I believe I got the picture in there. There you go. So this is a little different than the pier we have there. The pier now is locked into the bulkhead. This would be a floating pier. You can see the 4 corners. That's some type of PVC pipe right off the bat. Nobi, who is in charge of all this for us, he's recommended that we go with the wood piles. I totally agree with that. So we'll probably be in that ballpark of the range I gave you. If you look all the way out furthest and on the right, you'll see this black ramp. That's the kayak ramp that eventually, would slide right into the water with rollers. It is pretty neat. So we wouldn't have the problems we had years ago when we had a portable dock this way and designed like this, it'll work. So again, the whole estimate all in, looking at $40,000 to $50,000 on replacement.
And John, can I add one thing on this?
Absolutely.
Having sat through the meetings with the Rec and Park Committee, this ramp and dock also is handicap accessible, and that appears to be a huge consideration for usage going forward and currently actually. So this whole system will make the use of kayaks in the community accessible to everyone.
And John, did you say that you had the permitting already worked out on that?
So we did not. We would have to, we have to go for the permitting. Like I said, this just came to me. I wasn't aware of it. But we're jumping on it. So we have looked at other places for the permitting. We're actually working on it now.
So you'll be looking to put this in next year's budget? Not the one we're negotiating now, but.
Yeah, no, good. No, excellent. Sorry, I lost track. So yes, so we would not be able to do this until September of 2023, which then would be that next budget. You're right, Colette. We are doing the bulkheads there. That's coming up in this next year. So we would be looking at somewhere around September 2023, yes.
Okay.
We're going to try to see also, what the timing is, and maybe the committee has it already, if we did order this to see, but that's what we're looking at, yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, good question. All right, turn the page. Clubhouse wall and door, I kind of touched on this. They're up there. You saw some pictures. I got that picture yesterday. I was down there. The estimated cost is going to be under $15,000. The biggest cost is the door, which I'm being told should arrive in a week or two. The main door, which will be similar to the front door, so everything will be symmetrical, and the glass around it. It's what I mentioned before. Believe it or not, is the doors for the closets. They're just on back order and stuff. So that's the price, $15,000. Okay. On the page, which is what I've been asked about, updating everybody on. Okay, so just like anything I do or we do, and even with the lights for the bridge and everything, and if you have been here 3 years ago when we did all the other construction that came in on budget, we like to plan. We have sketches. These are sketches drawn for the wall that Frank Brown helped me out with a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago now, so that we had an idea and it helped us to plan for it. He's going to do the same thing for the bridge. He's actually working on it as we speak. So just hopefully next time I'll have final pictures. Turn the page.
And all that work's going to be done in-house, right?
Yes, all work being done in-house, all drywall up. I believe they'll start
Mudding.
mudding, whatever you want to call it,
Thank you.
as we speak. But yep, all in-house. Yeah, that was good. Okay, so we talked about this before. Really, no other update, but we are going forward. We work with the county. County is working with us, and those are the prices all within the budget that we have for drainage. And even though there was some utility work and stuff that we didn't anticipate, we believe that we're going to bring it in on budget. Okay, turn the page.
John, have we gotten our refund money back from the county for the billings we've done?
So, and as you know, Larry, the county committed to paying us even before they get the money from the state. I don't believe I got the last check. I asked Steve the other day, but with everything else going on, and I didn't find out. It's like $50,000. I was told we were going to get it. I don't know if we physically got it, but the county, and they've come through. The county is paying us from their money, and then they'll follow up with the state. But I can find out on Monday for you. Good. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. Okay, so electronic, but it's a good question, and you were right from the beginning on all that stuff, but it's only the one. All right, electronic signs. So another one, kind of had this one. I don't have it in the budget. To be honest with you, I didn't think it was as hot as it is, but again, the team and everybody else, and apparently the committee, and Josh was working with the committee, I was able to get all the information. It's pretty much where we were a year ago, but they do have some numbers. Of course, we would even update. So if you're looking at two signs, electronic signs, you're probably looking at all in, I would say, 80 to 100,000 range. Now, depending on which, contractor we go with, and obviously there could be some increases, it's going to be more. One thing that, and I believe Josh has even recommended, and some others that have told me that if we are going to go with this, they feel to go with the bigger sign, the 4.5 by 8.3. So obviously then the prices are a little higher, but it's all within that range that I'm giving you for two signs. The other thing is, and I just put it on the bottom, where Linda did it for me, it was my understanding, and Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but if we do these electronic signs, part of the agreement with the county was that we would take down all those other signs that are there. Josh, you agree?
That's correct, and they said that would be part of the permitting process for new signs.
Right.
Josh, is that for any new signs? If we put two in, we have to take them all out? Or we put two in, we take two out?
No, I talked to the county on Friday, and the understanding they gave to me was if we put any new electronic signs in, all of the old ones would have to be removed during the permitting phase.
Right.
Okay.
Colette, they've been consistent on that from the beginning.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're talking two signs here, what I've been told, and again, Josh, jump in, there would be one at the south gate where the first, you call them a kiosk, I call it the first sign, and then the same thing near the north gate, right around the first wooden sign there, correct?
We haven't determined locations. Julie and I were talking on Friday as well, and one thing we could look at is something at the sports core, for example, which might cut down on resident light pollution, and then maybe another by the community center. The gates are also options, but we haven't nailed down any locations.
And Josh, do those signs that you've gotten quotes on have a dim function, a night function?
I'm not clear on that. I'm sorry.
I think they
That
do.
would make a difference.
I think they do have that
Right.
dimming. Yeah, Josh, and we'll check, we'll follow up for Colette, but I think it does have that dimming.
Hey, John, can you provide a little more detail on the next to last bullet? I want to make sure I understand what you're trying to convey there.
Yeah, so quotes received for 8. So if we were to do 8 signs at that 4.5 by 8.3 as opposed to 2, that would be the price. And I guess there's some economies of scale or whatever there.
Would you agree that that's a pretty big economy of scale there? Figuring we get 2 of them for just under 100K, but for 255 we get 8. I mean, is that the way I'm reading it?
So just looking at that, I don't think he has all the labor costs and all that in there, and the estimates for the electric. So
That's correct.
Yeah, I'm right, Josh. Yeah, I looked at that the other night.
So the estimates for the electric are not in there in the 94.8 for two.
So where the economies would be is, I think it's 31, 32, so it's like three versus the 34, 399. So you probably got about 25, 30,000 there. That's
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, we don't have the labor and the other stuff in there, but it would be, so 30,000 for 6 more, so maybe 5,000, 3, 4, 5,000 assigned savings. Right, Josh?
That's correct.
Yeah, we'll amend that, Doug. Okay, good. What say the board on this, or are they prepared to?
Well, we're going to have a discussion on it today.
Yep. No, you're right. All right, turn the page. Okay, and I believe we put this in the budget. We did this proposed budget. So I was looking at this last year, the administration building, and all of this as far as replacement, as far as the DMA study, it is pretty much up. But, this is another thing for discussion, or an item for discussion. The HVAC system, the air conditioning, the heating here definitely needs to be replaced, definitely needs to be corrected. The whole side of the building is all like on one thermostat. I've never seen something like that, and you can't regulate it. But the systems are old. So to put in a new HVAC system, somewhere at 45 to 50,000, it would be replacement. The floors, the rugs here, we were looking at replacing the rugs with a different type of floor. So we would be non-rug. There just seems to be, I don't want to, whatever. But I think the best thing, and the whole team in here, all is leaning towards a different type of floor than the rugs. Again, it's replacement. The ceiling needs to be replaced. That's the estimate. It kind of went up a little bit. Everything's been going up from the last time I did it. New lights, 5,000, and then the painting. So $125,000. When we did the police station, when we did all the other construction or initiatives, we said we would look at this later. It is later. I got to see if I have the manpower. A lot of this we were anticipating to do in-house. Obviously, the HVAC would be outsourced. So this is something, I put it in the new budget, the proposed budget. If we want to move walls or do something different here, that's not included in here. I know Frank asked me before, I was talking about that 2 years ago. This does not include that if we want to go that route. Okay? But we have time on this. Turn the page. Mailboxes. Okay, so as you know, on the last board meeting, I was instructed to move forward, which I did immediately with Linda Martin has taken the lead. We did have some information in-house. We did, as I said in the last budget, we would do a cluster and to get experience, get prices, get an understanding of what's needed, which we did. We did it at High Sheriff. Everything came out really well. We got positive feedback on that. So now that I was told last board meeting to move forward on this by the board, we did. This would be maintenance. We're going to start off with the concrete pads. Actually, Linda will start going out. She's gone to a couple of them with me. We're going to continue that. We have Nobi, Violante, and Eddie, obviously, on this, and Clint, who have a lot of background with them, and they've done a lot of work on it. So we're going to start off with the concrete pads, especially where the pedestals are rotted. So if we have a situation where the concrete pad is no good, we will obviously fix that before, at the same time we do the pedestals. A lot of them, the pads are good, but you can see like that picture below. We've identified that the pedestals are probably one of the worst components on this whole situation. We are going to clean up the mailboxes. Linda and Nobi are working on that, on what's the best way. I think we all agreed that going in there power washing them is not the right way. So they are working on that. You have some prices there. The pedestals alone, I think overall, and that's not just for the 10 locations that we're going to identify, but we believe there's at least 100 pedestals out there that we need replacement. We have to go to the fabricator, but we had all that knowledge from when we did High Sheriff. You probably see round ones versus those square ones because that was what they could get. And there's the price that we, from our experience with the High Sheriff. So to just give you a ballpark. This, depending on how we would do it, would be maintenance. And it's coming out of the maintenance budget. But if I did one big item or whatever, that's $20,000, $30,000, then I would say it's new capital, because those pedestals, those mailboxes, as I mentioned from the beginning, they are not on our asset register. The concrete pads are. All right, so depending on how we do it. Any questions on that? We did move forward on that, but I know the board instructed last month. Good?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I got one more in here. The warming hut. Turn the page. Okay, so I did get this one, again, came out of a committee, board member brought forward. I had done some work on this in the team. I had met with committees and individuals. I had addressed it. I've addressed the racket sports. I came in there from the beginning. I saw that that place had not been maintained for years. We had a priority list to do the fences, to do the courts, to fix the courts wherever needed, to go out there and work on getting the permits, which was a big task, to get new pickleball courts. So we've done all that. Now we're in the process of getting the bids, obviously, for the pickleball courts. What I had down the list, and obviously, is the building there, the main building, and this warming hut, or whatever they call it, Racket Center, warming hut, which if you go back to the original page where I had the pickleball court, I had Linda circle where this hut is, if you don't know. It's right near the parking lot. So apparently this hut is used as a warming center for those who play, I don't know what it's called, paddle tennis. It's something I will be playing when I retire. Tom Herrick wanted to get me in it. But I've never played. I mean, I'm a kid. Tom wanted me to get into it when they built them, but it is a neat sport. I will when I have the time. I'll probably start off with pickleball, but let's see what happened with this. So I went down there. I had Noah Eddie. We reviewed this hut a year ago, if not longer. We made some repairs as we did for those courts. We repaired the fences, the gates, all the wood panels had not been maintained. We did all that. We put a couple other things in. I can't even remember, but there were several that they asked for that we did. Debbie followed up on that. So now comes the hut. So the committee member did come to me, I don't know how long ago, whatever they say, 6 months ago, a year ago, with a building that was like 40 by 20. When I say it's Ocean Parks, I can't put a building 40 by 20. I'd love to. We don't have the footprint for it. I'm not even sure right now if I expand that hut, and I would have to get permits we'd have to go to the county, and nobody's already working on that, depending on how much we go, whether or not we can even get approval after what we did for the pickleball courts. They said, you're pretty much maxed out over there, but we will look into it. But what I did in the meantime is when I found out about this, I went down there the next morning, first thing. I asked Eddie and Noby to meet with me, and we went through the hut, this warming hut, and I asked to get from the DMA study, from the asset list, where we are, because some of the stuff actually looked to me like, it's been replaced as opposed to anything else that we've seen here in the 3 years that I've been. So we listed that. The roof, 2009 for us, for what we've done in the past, is pretty good. The siding, soffits, windows, doors, all been replaced. You can see the years when they're due for replacement. Long time. It's a solid hut. But I'm being told that they need more space and they want to be warm or whatever. Now, there is heat in there. One of the things that I had mentioned last time was that I would look into outside heaters. And I got some pictures here. Eddie, Linda got me some. I had mentioned some of the things. If you look on the far right, these are heaters that we're using at the golf course patio. I believe they do use them at the yacht club. I've been in restaurants in Los Angeles. They use these. They warm you up. The others was I asked, there's a I don't know, a 2-foot soffit all around the building. I see that they have high pedestal chairs that they probably sit on. What I want to do is on the left there is put these heaters. Eddie's looking into that. I don't know, about $500-700 a piece. I say we do one side of them, see how that works out this year. We're going to try to get them. If they're in stock, we would get them, assuming I get the go-ahead on this. So what I'm recommending is this. That hut is good. Let's try this. You need more space. You need more space for people to be warm. Why not do this on the outside? And also, Eddie recommended the fire pit. It's probably around $6,000, $7,000. So what I'm saying is we'll give you the heat. We'll give you that type of area. We're going to expand it outside. I'm going to expand under this the soffit, which it's almost as long as the soffit there on the left. With these heaters, you got the chairs under them. They can see the activity and they're going to be warm. Let's give this a shot. I didn't do this yet. I know there's a lot of cabinets in that hut. I want to go down there with Public Works and see what's needed, what's not needed. I'll meet with the committee, with the people that play. Maybe we can expand some of the room in there. So this is what I'm recommending to go forward with. I know that they came forward with some type of new hut that's somewhere around $20,000. I think it's right there, the third bullet point. Committee requesting a 14 by 20 hut. And again, I have to see if I can. Nobody's already working on it, looking into it. If we can even put a hut like that. They have some pictures. There's the cost.
So John, I have a question about the permitting. If I understand you correctly, that is dependent, that has to do with the total footprint for the property of land that is covered in asphalt, because it's a wetland.
Correct.
And that you feel that we may be close to maxed out with the county.
What the county told us with the pickleball courts, that was pretty much it. That's the feedback we received. Now, I did come forward. We have it's one court, right, that has 4 pickleball courts. We got the permitting, we have the thing. We could possibly put another one in the back there. But it was where we had the situation with the wetlands and everything. So yeah, right now, I'm not even totally sure if I can get the okay from the county to go. Okay, so I'm sure they're going to talk about the warming hut later, they being the board. Let's get into the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. As I mentioned, it has been reviewed with BNF. We took their guidance, worked on that. We met with the board last week, received their guidance. We are in the process of working on that. There weren't many changes, some pricing or whatever that Debbie is working on with finance. So where are we? Let's give a highlight summary. So if you do dial in, and there's a lot of video out there that Josh posted, there's the whole presentation. There's all schedules that have been prepared, reconciling everything and explaining everything. What I'd like to do, what I do every year during the board meeting, is give a summary. So the way I do it is I'm taking what your proposed or your assessment was, or our assessment was in 2021-22, 996. And if you just scroll down, and I'll get the detail, the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget assessment right now is 925. So that's a decrease of $71. So we are proposing a decrease of $71 from the 996. And why is that happening? What's going on? And again, summarizing the binder that we put out there, everything electronic, all the reconciliations and slides is this. And I've mentioned in board meetings for the last several months, we do have favorability from efficiencies and organic growth in our amenities, golf, racket sports, food and beverage, aquatics, across the board. More revenue, more operating profit, more favorability to budget. And you can see even this year, we're favorable to budget. I'll show you in a couple slides, $1.4 million. Last year, we were over $1 million, the year before. So we're going this way. Everything we've done, everything that we've planned over the last 3 years, improving the amenities, investing money in the amenities so that people want to play the golf course. They want to go to the racket sports. Food and beverage, we have the Mad Art, we have Ralph, right? We have that. We have done improvements there, whatever they needed there within reason, we've all done. So you have favorability, you have organic growth, new growth. We have done different things from management. We have efficiencies in our expenses. Since day one that I've been in here, we have scrubbed all our accounts. We have reallocated. We've gotten efficiencies. So $94. So without headwinds, which I'll talk about next, we were able to take what we had last year and reduce it by $94. So now what do we have here? So let's go down to the third one. I'll skip here. It's offset by what I called headwinds. And I've talked about this in budget meetings, right? We have statutory increase in minimum wage, which affects Ocean Pines a lot. We have what I call a mark-to-market category, where even with the statutory increases or what we've been paying individuals, all labor, our workforce, we can't hire anybody because our competitors could be Dunkin' Donuts or anything else. They're paying $15, Home Depot. So we've been working through, and I've been working with HR and with the department heads, and we're coming up with schedules, and we put together how much this would cost on what we believe, in addition to what we were paying now, or certainly in addition to the statutory minimum wage for certain positions, many positions, on what we would have to pay. That's in that 76, along with inflation. We all know that inflation has raised its ugly head across the nation, right? Not just here. So our material, our gas, wood, lumber, everything's going up. So we've worked that out for each department. And then, of course, we have the merit increases at 3%, which hopefully we would have each year. In addition to that, the fire department did come in with what I would call safety, but an increase that comes down to basically $38 on the assessment. So you can figure that out, 38 times 8,456 or whatever. But it's for safety, it's for an increase in medical, in benefits, where they had some part-time individuals, which now they need to make full-time because they can't get that labor anymore on how they did in the past. Those individuals now would qualify for benefits, medical benefits. We also have some individuals on staff, which, like everybody else, now needs medical benefits. So that's a big number there, as well as an increase in staff of a few people, as well as those part-time, full-times that I mentioned. So we are working with the fire department to get that in an analysis, but they did a very good job at the last two meetings presenting that. And this is about safety for their calls, for the people on staff, so that they can properly man their vehicles. And I call that safety. So that was $38 increase to the $996. So net, with the one-time assessment reduction from current realized surplus, which I'm recommending to the board, we've seen in the past when we had an operating deficit, there was an increase to the assessment to offset it, right? So what that meant was the prior years it had built up that we didn't meet budget. So we had an operating deficit. That's not good. So we tried to do it over 3 to 5 years. We actually did it in 3 years, and not all of it from an assessment increase. So we have surplus now. We have surplus that was realized the last 2 years over the operating deficits, which we covered. So I'm recommending to the board, I recommended to BNF, this surplus reduction, the utilization of surplus of $53. Now, there is other surplus that we're going to apply, or recommended or proposed to the board, that we will apply against our reserves. And our reserves are the healthiest that I've seen in the 12 years that I've been doing this. This would not include the surplus we're running this year. It's not realized. I'm only in the 10th month. But you'll see when I present December and Linda Martin presents November, we're pretty much $1.4 million to the positive, to the good. And if we are able to maintain that over the next 4 months, that'll even help our reserves and everything else, and more healthy, and even the next budget, okay? And I'll answer any questions on this the board allows. Okay, so the next piece of this, that was the P&L side, the balance sheet side, general replacement. This is what we're recommending or proposing to spend. So if we have some type of equipment, the DMA study or our asset list says, hey, that's fully depreciated, that time is up. We're estimating around $500,000 to replace that. Roads, $350,000. Since I've been here, that's what we've been doing. That covers 3 miles, which is what I recommended when I first came in. Our history is showing that it cost us around $100,000 a mile, which is pretty good. It doesn't include the sub base, which every time we've done something, I've been told it's solid. In addition to that 350, we are, as I mentioned earlier, taking a piece of that surplus reserve, and we're going to apply that to the reserve for roads. So the first time again since I've been here, we're going to have a balance in there. Now, BNF did recommend that I include a balance. I want to work towards that over 2 years, 3 years. They want us to have a balance of $1 million in there outside of the spend that we do each year. So we are working on that, and I believe with the way we're going this year that I can have the second part next year. Drainage, $400,000. That's what we're talking about spending on drainage. We have jump-started that the 3 years that I've been here, and now we are providing for $400,000 worth of drainage. Years ago, I don't even know what we did. I don't think we had any. And this is in addition to the maintenance budget that Public Works has that you see them doing all day long or all week long, which is somewhere around $150,000 to $200,000. So this is in addition. This is for pipes that are 40 years old, 50 years old. We did 10 of them last year. We got an outside company from Louisiana that does a pipeliner, and we had much success with them, and we're going to bring them back. We're looking around 10, 12 pipes again. These are major pipes that haven't been touched in 40 years. Give or take 10, if not 50. They were replaced. We never did this before. So that's provided in there. And the assessment is still $71 decrease. Okay, so with that, and I kind of touched on this, we do a schedule to look at our reserves. I go out 5, 6 years, and then we look at them and we see what our reserves are compared to what we would need if we had to replace everything. And we're up around 25%. Now, the recommended that was set from BNF years ago was a range of 22 to 28% accepted by the board. And that's what we've been going by. So right now, with all this said and done, we'll be at 25%, which is higher than the lower end, right in the middle. And I think we can do even better over the next year or two. All right, so that's what I have on that. I think that gives everybody a good summary on the proposed budget. I am going to be scheduling with Linda and working with the president and CFO to schedule at least one town hall, which we do every year, and it's in our scrolls, to present this budget to the community. So it'll probably be this week or next week. We're working on that. I just wanted to see with the weather, and I just wanted to get through this budget. So that will be coming. And of course, if you have any questions or anything, or it's all online, please send it to info@oceanpines.org, and we'll get back to you. Turn page.
John, let me ask.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
question.
Sure. Go back,
Previous
Josh, please. I mean, I got it. Doesn't matter.
So let me just kind of understand in my mind here.
Sure.
So you're proposing basically,
Josh, go back one slide, please.
stay on that one.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
You're basically proposing a $71 decrease in the assessment.
Yes.
Okay, and then on the next slide,
Turn page.
in addition to the $71 decrease in the assessment, we are allocating $400,000 to drainage, which previously was not allocated. $350,000 to road reserve, which previously was not allocated, and $492 to the general replacement, which was previously not allocated.
Correct. But in comparison to, and you're right, absolutely. In comparison to other years, the drainage is way higher than we ever did by hundreds of thousands of dollars. I don't even know what we were doing before 3 years ago, 4 years ago, outside of the maintenance. That's right. We've increased this every year over the 3. So that's in addition to whatever you ever saw before. The roads to 350 has been constant since I've been here. But we are doing now is we're going to increase another 350 in there.
Right.
Which is what your point is, yes, which would be in reserve. So that's an increase. And even with the reduction, which I guess is your point, yes, we still are doing better on our reserves than we've ever been. Now, the general replacement, just the way it worked out with our studies and everything, it's around $500,000 this year. You know, that can go high, low, but we do contribute. We're contributing somewhere around $1.7 million. So again, beefing up our reserves, and you're going to be even better than 25. Yes, if that's your point. Yep. Can you just back on slide, because I missed it, and I missed this last year, and I apologize last year to individuals. Go back one slide, please, Josh. Okay, so on the bottom, the waterfront lot had differential. Last year when I did this, I didn't include it or had it, and I missed it. Apologies last year, but I want to make sure I don't miss it this year. So the waterfront lots differential, which for anybody with a waterfront lot or a boat knows, they pay this differential in addition to the 925, but it's 615. And the point I'm making there is it's no increase from last year. So that still stays the same.
Okay.
And that's what, there's a lot of increases, as you know, with lumber and everything else. We're hoping that that kind of balances out for the next budget. And we have money in there in case we have some emergency. Turn the page. Thank you, Frank. Financials. Okay, so with the financials, we present November. We did finish December. Steve just finished them the other night. We have come forward. I have to present November. Last month, I presented a flash for that. So I want to present the actuals. We will eventually catch up with the new timing for the board meetings, I believe. But Linda Martin will take you through the November financials, and then I'll talk to you about December and tie it all together. Linda.
Okay, net revenues were favorable by 58,000 for the month of November. Expenses were unfavorable by 16,000, still left with net operating of 42,000 favorable. Next slide. Year to date, we're 1,280,000 favorable for net revenues. Expenses were favorable 133,000, leaving the net operating at 1,413,000 favorable. Next slide. Okay. For the month, Recreation and Parks was favorable more or less due to the wages and benefits. General Administration was favorable to the release of the coupon card revenue. Public Works was favorable due to wages and benefits. Golf Operations was favorable due to the sale of a mower and also due to wages and benefits. Yacht Club was unfavorable due to wages and benefits and also due to the revenue sharing of 25,000. Police was unfavorable due to vehicle gas, and the new capital was unfavorable due to video equipment purchased as well as the aqua cycles. Everyone else was unfavorable 9.4, leaving a total of 41,600,000 favorable.
Is the next one year to date? I just need the year to date slide. Could you just call that up?
Okay, next slide.
Okay, so let me just jump in and thank you, Linda. So, right, I just talked to you about the proposed budget. I talked to you about surplus, which was realized, which was last year that we closed out that year and we utilized it, and the benefit that it had on the budget I'm preparing now, or we are, everybody is. So how are we trending now this year for the budget that we're not even looking at a year from now? Well, you have right now with 4 months left, and anything can happen, right? We're contingent upon weather, and we lose April or certain key weekends and everything. It could have a material effect, or if even something happens that we need a lot of maintenance or whatever. But we're trending right now $1.4 million, and I'm going to show you December, and it's just going to go up a little more. If we continue this to the end of this year, it would have also the same favorability for next year's budget, as well as our reserves, and that's big. It's big. All righty, turn the page. Okay, so we've been doing this to keep everybody current, and they did actually just get completed, but what we call a flash, so I can give you the month of December to bring us current. And then obviously I would just take this bottom number, whether it's favorable or unfavorable, operational, to the prior number that I just showed you for year to date. So if you're jumping ahead of me, which I just did, we're favorable for December, $37,000 favorable in a month of December. So here's why. General admin's favorability around $29,000, $30,000. We've talked about this before, the spreading. We did have a release or some money that we spread over the year instead of taking it all in 1 month. It's about $20,000 a month. So it's in that number, and you're probably going to see this kind of favorability for general admin to the end of the year. And even Steve, Steve's also given B&F a lot of update on that. The second one, Public Works, favorability on the wages. But we can see now, even like now, I have a couple snowstorms and everything. There's a cost to that. There's a lot of different costs. So it's like anything else. We have the favorability. A lot of times we haven't been able to fill some of these spots, and we're working on that. I mentioned about mark to market. So we are trying to fill the spots. But, if something happens, some favorability, 10, 20, 30,000, it goes like that. So we are kind of provided for if something happens. If it doesn't, we're good. If it does, we're there. The police, they have some favorability on wages, some open spots that I believe they're filling. Aquatics, well, here we go with aquatics, one of the amenities and what I've been saying and continues. Organic revenue growth, even for the month. So you're doing great down there. Membership dues, daily fees, rentals, a little favorability on the wages. Sometimes if we close it, I'm not saying, I don't think we did on this, but sometimes when we close on certain times of the year, we actually have some favorability because sometimes there's a cost. I mean, we make our money during that key time for the majority of amenities from May to October. Golf ops and maintenance, well, I want to jump up and down, but I'll stay whatever. Favorability, greens fees, carts, all organic. If you jump ahead and when I show you the year to date for golf to budget is favorable, $300,000. Favorable to budget. So yes, just what I've been saying and everything we said over the last 3 years, let's invest, let's fix the course. Same thing for aquatics, same thing for racket sports, which we're doing. Food and beverage, as well as bringing in Matt and Ralph. It's paying off. It's paying off, and now we're making money, right? And I've said from the beginning, it's not about cutting costs. Cutting costs, sometimes you cut a cost $1 and you may lose $3 in revenue. So we're on the right path. Hopefully we stay that way. Rec and Parks, there's favorability there. Again, she has some on wages. She did have some utility costs, and she had some revenue increase. Not as much, but there again, filling some positions. Sometimes it works the other way. Food and beverage, 61,000. Okay. Obviously, at this time of the year, they're closed or they, you don't have much revenue at this time of the year, but we still have our costs. We have our management fees. The bonuses are kicking in. Steve is trying to spread it out over the last 4 or 5 months. They did, based upon their numbers in September and October, there's other bonuses that kick in that we believe they'll be at the end of the year in April, and we just don't want April to hit it, so we spread it out. So this isn't like they're losing money there or whatever. This is just the normal way with accounting. And if anything, it shows at the end of the day, they're going to have record-breaking profits. And then the rest is just all those areas there, and so pretty much around 4,000. So if you take the 36.7, you add it to Linda Martin's number, you're coming about 1,450,000 favorable with 4 months left.
Wow.
Thank you. That's it. That's it for me. Colette?
Okay, Larry, treasurer's report.
Next slide, please. This information really hasn't changed much. We're still, our CDRs are still bringing us about 0.75%. As of November, we have 14.8 million in cash, 7.1 is invested in CDRs, and 7.7 million in our money market. Next slide. Again, this is the condition of the reserves as of November 30th. You can see that we started April 30th at a total of 5.7 million, and our current is at $7.3 million. Next slide. And this is a list of the expenditures and our estimated balance in the reserve funds as what we're projecting through on April 30th, 2022. And you can see again that where we started last year at a total of 5.7. Currently, we're projecting 5.484. However, I don't think this takes into consideration any additional reallocation of surplus to the reserve accounts. Is that correct, John?
Right.
Yep.
So, and then again, this is like a forecast. So
Right.
one of the reasons we have all these efficiencies that we monitor everything. But yep, you're right.
Okay. That's all I have unless there's any questions.
Okay, public comments. Remind people making public comments that they must state their name and address. And per our governing documents, time limit for comments is 5 minutes. I'm going to start with an email comment that we received from a Jackie Kurtz at 1B Canvasback Court. I'm just going to read this email. This email came to all of the directors. A big welcome to the new board members. Welcome back to the old members, and congratulations on all your new positions. It's a new year and a new board, so a perfect time for all of you to make a commitment to prioritize being kind and respectful and to focus on the positive. And we heard from John, there's a lot of positive to focus on. This is the year to listen respectfully, even when you don't agree. It's time to leave behind all the bad behavior and time wasted dragging us all into the muck and mire and really commit to this being the year you are role models for our community on how adults should behave, especially with people you disagree with. I would like to challenge the new Ocean Pines Board of Directors to consider making a pledge like the one I've attached at the first meeting of the year. I hope this will inspire you all to leave behind bad feelings and remember why you are on the board, to do what's best for our community, and that means being a positive role model and treating everyone with respect. And the pledge is as follows. I agree to take the pledge to think before I speak. Before you speak or post, ask yourself if what you are going to say is true, is kind, is necessary, is helpful. If the answer is no, maybe what you are about to say should be left unsaid. And I'll report that each of the directors responded to Ms. Kurtz individually, endorsing the sentiments in this email. And I wanted to share it with the public because I think it applies to all of us. And I would hope that we would all, in our attendance and participations in our meetings, also take this pledge. Thank you. And then we have one person in the Peach Room participating physically, Dutch. I'm going to ask first if you have any public comments you'd like to share with us.
Go ahead.
My name is Philip Osteen, 12th floor guy. First thing, I want to thank Joe, our general manager. Joe, you have done an outstanding job. I recommended it a couple of times to the board. And everybody is very happy with you, what you did. We had two general managers that was elected by the board, that was friends. They run at Ocean Pine for $100,000 in debt. You got us out of debt with your knowledge. I feel sorry you leave us. And I don't think so that you leave. The reason you leave early, something went wrong. That's what I got to say. The other thing I want to say, I got no chance to do that last week. They call again the police if something went wrong. And I want to say the 6 people, I said it was 8 people. It was 6 people what quit the job under these 2 people, what was last year, president and vice president. That was Mr. Turtle, Janaski, and Lady Roger. I felt sorry for Mrs. Roger. She was just a perfect lady in the board. And she got to blame what happened with the election. But how I have to say that it was not hard. She listened to a man who lived 200 miles away, and he told her that to do. But unfortunately, the lady got the blame for it. She would have made a perfect president for Ocean Pine. And then we have Mrs. Colby on the side, the people who work for Ocean Pine. She quit. And some board member wrote a very bad story about her in the paper. Then we got Michelle and our general manager. It's the 6 people that quit under these 2 people what was president and vice president last year. And it's like I say, I disagree with the election from the board this year, and I told Mr. Frank Davids this morning I would not serve vice president or new president. And let's see. It's like I say, the way I think what happened in the last 2 years here, comes in the, it was run like a damn dictatorship. Some people, we cannot have people run the board like a dictatorship. It's the same thing last week. We had a new president, and not even 20 minutes later, we had the police. We people like to talk. And it's wrong what is done to us. And I ask still not the same thing. I want the president and the president from last year to quit the job. You both are the trouble in Ocean Pine. That's all I got to say on my comment.
Okay, Dutch, thank you for your remarks. Is there anybody in this room that would like to speak?
I would like to say, wow.
Name and
Wow,
address, please. Pam, would you
Oh,
state
my
your,
name's Pam Ferendi.
and your address?
I'm sorry?
Your address.
92 Watertown Road.
Thank
Thank you, Colette. I would like to say wow to you. We've been in Ocean Pines for, I think, 30 years now. You are the best that we have ever had, and I feel terrible that you're leaving because you're a gem, absolute gem. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart and from people in Ocean Pines for what you've done. And I want to second that lady who sent that note in. As you know, I called you or emailed you the last time everything was going crazy. And I said, this is not adults working together. This is crazy. And she makes a good point. Her point is be kind to each other, work together. That's your job, is to work together. And you're working together for the good of the association, not for whatever agenda you have. And we're doing wonderful things. And we need to keep doing that and not having squabbling among us. So I'm really hoping that this year we're going to see even more progress. The one thing I think you're not doing well at, and you should do better at, is you're not getting your PR out there, because the other newspapers are blowing things up. I have to call Colette or email her and find out what's true and what's not. So I think you need to do some more stuff on getting your message out there, not letting other people get your message out there. I thank you all for doing your time and all the work you have to do. This is my first board meeting. I didn't realize the amount of work that you all are doing for free. You're doing it for free. I mean, people like you make hundreds and thousands of dollars to do what you're doing. So I thank you so much. And I beg you from the bottom of my heart, quit squabbling. Please work together. Be kind. Be civil. Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you for your comments, Pam. Maybe we'll hire you for our PR. In the room wants to speak? Yes, Patty,
Oh, yeah, I did have a comment.
your name and address.
Ocean's End, I came here in '76. And this is actually maybe my third or fourth board meeting that I've come to in, 40 years. So I'm not paying attention. I'm not a political person or anything like that. And again, I comment on that you're doing it for free and you're doing a job, and I commend you for that. I've seen a lot of changes in 40 some years here. Okay, I've seen a lot. I mean, 50 years, right? So almost 50 years. So I've seen a lot, but I see one thing missing from the community of 15, 16,000 people now. Is that it?
You can go with that.
Yeah. That we don't have. What we don't have is a center, an exercise center with machines and a place where, especially my wife, can come and do floor exercise of some sort. I don't belong, but I have friends in other communities from California to Florida and here that live in communities, retirement communities. And they do have that. And they haven't, the population is nowhere near what our population is. And I think what it should do is, somebody should do some research on it and see if it's applicable to this area, to our group. That would be a separate building or add on to the existing building somewhere. But 365 days a year that it can be used. My wife comes up and she does exercise here in the mornings, 3 days a week in the morning. But all summer long, she can't come to exercise because the kids are there. But, you know, we have a lot of senior citizens in this community. And what a senior citizen needs for mobility and strength is a place to do a safe exercise on safe machines. You know, walking, yes, a lot of people walk. That doesn't do everything for you. Walking does help, but it's not everything. So I would like the board to really look long-term into feasibility of an existing building, proper exercise equipment, a room somewhere where people could come in and do a floor exercise or someone give a class. And it can be done throughout the year. It doesn't have to shut down when summer camp comes. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, Paul, thank you for your comments. Patty, did you have something?
Yes, thank you. My name is Patty Stevens. I live at 171 Nottingham Lane. I'd like to echo what others have said and thank Mr. Viola for the great work and the positive progress that we've made. I have two questions related to rec and park things. I'm going to throw them out at the same time because I'm conscious that John is leaving and I want to get his knowledge and brain power in it, just put them on the table. One relates to the presentation about the kayak rack. One of the reasons, and this was in our annual report in November, and one of the thoughts we had was since Pintail bulkhead is scheduled for replacement,
Correct.
whether even if the actual launch itself were not placed, whether the base and framing for that could be done with some economy of scale while the marine engineering people were there doing the bulkhead. I'm not an engineer,
Yeah, no.
but it seemed like while they were there with their big machines doing that putting that framing and base, and which would require us knowing which thing we're going to put there so that they knew which base needed to be done. Right. So that's just a question. Is that possible? It doesn't have to be answered today, but for consideration. And the second related to the awesome numbers you're putting in for maintenance and roads and trails. The other part of our Rec and Park Committee's agenda is improving places to walk and ride safely in our community. Some of that's on the roads, some of that is on our trails. The two main walking trails in Ocean Pines, the one that parallels Route 90 and the one on Sherwood Forest that's called the Robin Hood Trail.
Right.
I walk those several times a week and have for the last 3 years. No crush and run, no grading, no dirt, no improvements have been done on either of those trails. They're dangerous. The roots are exposed. They have holes. I don't know what part of the budget that falls under, whether that's maintenance or capital improvements, but I'd like to ask that be a priority for this year. It's a priority in our survey responses and see if that could be planned in for this coming year's work.
Yeah, so that,
Do you want to speak?
yeah, so the trails that this did come up, Debbie mentioned to me the last time, we're going to look at them. That would be maintenance. I got to check with the weather, with the other things we're doing. What I'd like to do on that is with everything else is do a piece of it, get history, get experience, and then see what we can do. But we did talk with Debbie, brought it up to me a couple of weeks ago. So I just got a couple other things, obviously, to snow. We will look at it. There is a pier there now. I'm sorry, because there is a pier there now. I'll see if we can do something. Maybe we have, but I got to see with the work and everything else that's going on. But if I can do something with the piers there that's there now, we'll do it. But I can't guarantee it. But I understand what you're looking at. If I can, we'll do it. All right, I'll have Nobi look at it, and we'll go down there. And Debbie.
And whether it makes sense, if it's gonna be in next year's budget, to start the permitting process and the materials
already-
ordering now.
Yes, we
Great.
how did I have this, Nobody's on it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No,
We're
thank
really
you.
excited that that's on the radar.
Okay, Patty, thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the room?
Yeah, Susan Morris, and I'm on Hingham Lane in Interlinks. I have a question about, that you brought up the trails. That stretch along 90, there's no fencing there at all. And I just wonder, would that be our responsibility to have some fencing to prevent kids and dogs and whatever to run up on 90, or is that a county issue?
So, and I gotta make sure I got it right, what you're saying, but, right, once you go up that hill and that whole section there, that's county.
Okay.
If that's what you're talking about, as far as the trail itself, I'd have to look. I think that's ours, but I'm not totally sure without looking what you're saying.
Because
But if we do that, believe me, we'll put, if we need to put a fence on our end, we'll do it. But going up towards 90, that whole thing there, that's
Yeah.
not us.
Okay, I didn't know.
But we're gonna look at the trails and stuff and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Anybody else in this room? Okay, there's some people on Teams. I see a hand raised. Josh, do you want to give access to those people to speak?
Yes, first in line was Cheryl Jacobs.
Cheryl?
Cheryl Jacobs, 1223 Carrollton Lane. First, I would like to echo all of the comments, positive comments from Mr. Viola. We are so appreciative of all that you've done for the community, and we're all very sorry to see you leaving in your current position. I know you're not leaving the community, so I'm sure you will still be involved. I'm the chair.
Pickleball, kayak, dog on those trails. God, I'm sorry, Cheryl.
I'm sorry I'm not there with you in person, but as the chair of the Communications Advisory Committee, I am speaking on behalf of the committee, and I'm saying, of course, that we have put a lot of time and effort into advancing the proposition of going into the 21st century with electronic signage, and I am very much have the support of the entire committee. We are hoping to get the support of the board and move forward on this. John commented when he was talking about it that not all of the details are worked out yet, and that's yet to be handled. However, the first step, of course, is to get you all to move forward, and I urge you to have a productive discussion about this, and anything that you need additional information on, we are happy to try and get that for you. Thank you so much. Carry on.
Thank you, Cheryl. Josh, next up.
Next was Matthew Lloyd.
Matthew?
Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew Lloyd, and my wife and I and 3 kids just recently moved to Ocean Pines a couple of months ago, specifically to 11 Deerfield Court in the Nantucket neighborhood. And before I begin, I just want to commend the board for moving this meeting to a hybrid format. I had written last week to check in, and I was really surprised and disappointed when I got the response that the meeting would be in person only. This is the first meeting that I'm attending, and so I'm not sure if that was typical or atypical, but I really want to strongly encourage you to continue the hybrid meeting format. Particularly for those who are not able to attend because of physical distance or because of health concerns because of the pandemic. The main reason that I'm here today is to advocate for the board to take up the recommendations from the Recreation and Parks Committee and take action this year on the proposed kayak launch at Pintail Park. So I grew up in Massachusetts. Being close to the water was always part of the equation for me as a kid, and I really want that to be the case for my kids too. And that's one of the reasons why Ocean Pines was so appealing to my wife and I as we searched over the summer of 2020. And when we weren't in doing in-person scouting or meeting with our realtor, we referred to the Ocean Pines website frequently for clarifications and context. And we were particularly impressed with the Ocean Pines website and mostly the Ocean Pines Academy that sent us a really strong signal that Ocean Pines didn't just look good on the outside, but had a strong community inside. The one thing that we noticed through our online visits and then repeated visits to the website was that the information on the water sports community besides the marina was kind of tucked away and not easily accessible. And based on that experience, I just wanted to join this meeting today and offer a really full-throated support for the kayak launch at Pintail Park and to press the board to take action, to include it in the budget and take action now and not in some undefined time in the future. Pintail Park is really great because it's really centrally located in the community. The water's calm. And this area is really underutilized for providing safe access to the water for Ocean Pines community members without riparian rights. The easy launch would be really extremely beneficial for all stripes of families that want to get out there and spend time on the water access together. So thanks for your hard work and thanks for pressing ahead and taking action with a concrete date for taking action on the kayak launch at Pintail Park. Thank you.
Matthew, thank you for your comments. And I want to give a shout out to our Communications Advisory Committee and to John's Marketing Department under the direction of Josh Davis for the Ocean Pines Academy and for the maintenance of the website. So thank you for your positive comments about both of those. Josh, is that it?
That's it. I do have one comment in the chat.
Okay.
Jackie Kurtz wrote, just a shout out. I'm excited about the kayak launch ramp, the additional pickleball courts, and the upgrading on the bike walking trails. It's great so we can keep OP residents active.
Okay, thank you, Jackie. Send her our appreciation for that comment, Josh. Okay, now capital purchase requests. Skipped over a whole bunch of meetings before trying to get to this, and there's nothing there. CPI violations, nothing there. Unfinished business, nothing there. And now we're up to new business. And the first one is the first reading of resolution MO9. That is something I'm putting forth. This pertains to the candidate registration process and some of the election process. And so the motion would be to have a first reading of revisions to resolution MO9 and the candidate registration form attachment to that resolution. The purpose in effect is to move forward in the effort to improve our candidate verification process for our board of directors elections. And it's become, in terms of background discussion, it has become apparent to the board that we need to improve our processes for candidate verification for our board elections. The proposed revisions to resolution MO9 and the candidate registration form aim to do this. And so the board received all of these documents for review. They were included in the board packet for public review. Are there any comments or discussion? And let's start with the MO9 changes. Let's see here. Under candidate search responsibilities of the secretary, under section AI, the change would be to add that the secretary shall use the Worcester County land records and or state Department of Assessment and Taxation records to verify property ownership. Under 8A4, there's a wording change for consistency that the form is called the candidate registration form that candidates fill out. And that the expectation is that the candidate has completed that form has provided attachments required by that form. 5, the secretary may seek information from an applicant regarding the registration form, but may not grant time to complete the form or correct information on the form that has been submitted. The secretary will attach to the application supplemental information that resolves any questions. And then moving down to AC, the changes that the secretary, adding to that, that the secretary will notify each applicant of the acceptance or rejection of the candidate's application prior to submitting the list of eligible candidates to the election committee. And the reason for a rejection shall be included with the notification, and that will be not later than June 1. And then D, when the list of eligible candidates has been submitted to the elections committee, the following shall be released to the members and the public by the association: the list of eligible candidates and the registration form, which is attachment B of each eligible applicant. So the new concept there is the release of the registration forms, which we have not done in the past. Any comments on that for today?
I want,
Doug?
under 8A5, what I have a problem with is Secretary may, which is a very sort of ambiguous term. It may seek information from an applicant regarding registration, and then it ties back into the timing of not being able to grant information. Suppose, for example, that they have to go out to the county and get another piece of information that was requested, and the county doesn't get back to them in a reasonable amount of time, and that information does indeed allow them to be eligible, but yet they pass the timeline, and therefore you say they're ineligible. All right?
Right.
In other words, that's incongruous with the ability to say, if you're asking for information with the intent of making sure they meet the eligibility requirements, and in the same vein, you're saying, and if you don't get it to me by this date, you're done. And if they didn't have any particular fault on their part for not getting the information in a timely manner, we are discounting people for what I consider an unreasonable reason. So I can't support that. I understand the concept there, but I'm not, and I'll provide some required or proposed wording to change that, because I'm not going to agree with that particular information.
Okay, so between now and the second reading, you'll do that?
I shall do that. And then one other question, and this is more of a question, under 8C. It says that the line is crossed out, the public release of candidates' names. Want to make sure I understand what the intent here is. You're going to submit the list of eligible candidates to the election committee, and then at what point does that information become public? Because it's not really clear the way it's
Yeah,
written
that's
right here.
addressed in D. When the list of eligible candidates has been submitted to the elections committee, the following will be released to the members and the public.
Right.
So it's at that point.
So it's somewhat redundant, because that does infer, although I don't think it's the case, that the elections committee will have to do something to say, okay, and then it gets released to the public. I'm just saying that maybe under the, C, it happens, at the same time. It gets sent to the election committee and sent to the public.
And do you want to include that in the language?
It's just more cleanup. It's just, what can be accomplished. You're basically taking two steps that can be accomplished in one, is all I'm saying.
Okay. Duly noted. Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I think we need to add in here, and I'm not exactly sure under what section, but we're making it clear that the county records have to be, the determination is based on county records. With the recent litigation and the judge taking the position that because ownership, the judge is basically saying ownership is inferred based on our membership rolls, and that's not the case. We don't, membership rolls may not accurately reflect who in fact is the owner of the property. So I think I would like to see added to this resolution that the membership rolls are not determinative of ownership, that the secretary will rely on the county land records and not the membership rolls maintained by Ocean Pines.
That's the language that you would, okay.
Something.
Okay, so duly noted. I'll take that back to the committee. Frank?
Yeah, to both Larry's point and Doug's point, at the last board meeting, I kind of gave you guys a heads up. Okay, I have at the moment 14 proposed bylaw changes being reviewed by council. I intend to call a special meeting and request a special meeting within the next 7 business days for the purpose of putting those bylaw changes out for referendum. I think until we look at those, until council vets them, and I think Jeremy and I have gone through them twice. Okay, so they're close. Okay, I think until we see those and until you all have a chance to look at them, that some of the discussion on this forum should be held in abeyance, because some of those proposed changes directly address these issues and would directly affect this forum.
Right, thanks, Frank. And at the time that I submitted this for first reading, I was not aware that you and Jeremy felt that we would be ready for this, for those bylaws changes to go to referendum in time for them to impact the upcoming election. The intent here was to have something in place that did the cleanup that we could do within what our bylaws currently allow. But we can certainly delay the second reading of this until we've had a chance to get that input from council. Okay, so, and then anything else on this form? And then the next is attachment B. It's the candidate registration form, which looks completely different from what it looked like before. And I think section 2, the mandatory yes, no questions speak to the candidate qualifications. And I think Frank's bylaws changes are going to impact the content of this. And so I think we should delay discussion of that section until we find out what we're going to be facing in terms of the council review. Yes. Yes, I'll suspend. Jim is the chair of the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee.
Annapolis Court, and again, I'm the chair of the Bylaws and Resolutions Advisory Committee. I have a problem with what's discussed here regarding Frank's proposal and the M09 changes. Bylaws changes are not going to, they may come into effect this coming election, but this resolution change will affect the election if you proceed with it. Now, you've got a time frame on the bylaws changes. That's us somewhere out in the future. This affects candidate application, and that can be today. There's no reason why a candidate can't go out and fill out a form and put it in today. So delaying M09 and its consideration is not necessarily really what you want to do.
Yeah, Jim, let me speak. Jeremy, did you want to speak?
I tend to agree with Jim on this in the sense that this is, if this is adopted now and the amendments are adopted, you would come back and revise this to be consistent with the bylaws at the time. The bylaws being adopted is not known whether they're going to be adopted or not. So I would think moving forward with what is known and then revising with what may happen would probably be the best course of action. That way you the suspenders here, I think.
So you're advocating proceeding with the second reading.
Right. If the amendments are adopted, you'll revisit and revise to fit.
Okay.
Sure. M09 almost certainly will have to be amended in some manner.
Right.
If any bylaws or changes affecting the election and the election process.
Yeah, and Jim, your points are well taken. It's just I wanted to give you a heads up. The way that this process works, you have the first reading, and then you have the second reading, and then the vote to adopt it. That's what we did last year with the changes.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to give everybody the heads up between, like imminently. I don't know exactly where Jeremy's at, but I expect to call that special meeting sometime next week. So by the time that the second reading comes up, I would expect that we would know what those proposed changes are, whether or not the board has approved them, and whether or not we're going to referendum.
Doug?
Yeah, I kind of maybe tangential to what Frank's saying. I agree. I was going to suggest there's nothing holding us up from doing the changes to M09. And given the fact that, Frank, I think you mentioned there are 11 or
I think there's
9.
14. We pared them down.
There's gonna be like 16.
I think there's a safe assumption that says no matter what, if with all the changes to the bylaws, we will definitely need to go back and look at the resolutions, and we'll have some homework to do to make sure there's no conflict. So just assume, and I think it's a valid assumption, that we'll be doing some review of the resolutions if and when the changes to the bylaws, proposed changes to the bylaws are passed.
Okay, Larry?
Well, I think it's all very timely. If Frank is going to call a special meeting to go over the bylaws next week, as part of that special meeting, we could include the second reading of this resolution and make changes at that time after the discussion takes place regarding the bylaws. And we could make adjustments right then and put the resolution in place. And, you know, there's no reason not to do it at the next special meeting.
Okay. Okay, reinstating Robert's rules. So any comments on this form at this point? Okay. So now we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, the Racket Center upgrades discussion topic. Amy?
Well, we got some new information today that I didn't have. Going forward, you've all received the proposal and my discussion form. With the information presented today, I just want to do a brief history about the warming hut. It was the old guard hut. More importantly, it was put on the facility before courts 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 were built. So it was there for a while, and since then, paddle sports has taken off. Just last year with their membership initiatives, they've added 31 new players. The size of the hut is very, very small. So I'm kind of a big girl, and if I'm in there and Colette came with me to tour and someone comes in and they want to go through the hut, you kind of have to back up. It's very narrow. The new dimensions for the hut are much wider. So we're going from 11 by 14 to 14 by 20. This space is needed. It is a revenue generator. Right now, with the size of the hut that we have right now, attracting tournaments is very, very difficult. If you look at how we've invested money and into the Racket Center and what it's done to revenue, a perfect example is our investment in pickleball. Pickleball revenue went way up. It was 35,000 approximately in 2021 and 80,000 in 2022. Giving the center a new, bigger hut is what's needed to keep pushing this membership revenue drive. Colette and I were over there. The courts were full. I bet you anything, if I go over there today, someone's shoveling snow off those courts. It is a winter sport. This is their time. These players are passionate and they take care of the facility. They need it to continue the growth. When I'm always looking at the community survey when I'm researching and I'm doing my planning. The demographics support the fact that paddle sports is going to be taken off. John's saying he's going to go over there and play as soon as he retires. Right. You know, I think that's pretty typical of what is happening. The strategic planning committee, they did a great back in November. They did a great presentation on the demographics in Ocean Pines. And it's moving towards paddle sports. I can't play tennis. My knees just can't do it. But that spec tennis is really, really fun looking. And I think I can do that. Spec tennis, which uses the paddle hut. They even have started their own little club. They've got a cool app to attract other spec tennis players. I think if we give the facility what they need, which is more space, we're going to see those numbers keep going up and up and up. And the committee, the Racket committee was charged with looking at the rates. That was discussion was at the budget. They're not a selfish people. The tennis rates were 8 and 10, and they said, "Oh no, let's charge us 10 and 15." You know, I mean, they agreed to a 15% increase. They know what they need to do to keep driving the numbers, and I just want to see the racket sports make money, not just pickleball, but all of the racket sports make money. So I think this is a smart investment. The proposal included a lot of pictures so you could see what we're talking about regarding the space, regarding permits. The proposal is not to increase the cement pad, but to use like a gravel platform. So that would maybe help with getting a permit that would allow us to put it there. I went out with a tape measure. It's not very official, but I kind of gauged the size of the hut and I think it'll fit nicely. Right now, 85% of our community is not using that racket facility. This is a gem in the community. They're doing their part to get the word out. I just like pickleball's picking up. I think platform tennis is going to pick up. The community is ripe for the picking, as they say, considering our age. And it's a very fun social group. And being a fun social group, they need this space to be social and not just outside. I like the ideas of the heaters too. We'll take those as well. And a fire pit and all of it. But I really feel strongly that they need this space. So my recommendation is for us to see if we can't get the permit to get the bigger hut. I have two of our ladies here, Susan and Karen from Paddle Sports. If anyone has any questions, we can suspend Robert's rules and have them pipe in.
Josette?
Yeah, I think, so you like some of the ideas they propose. I just want to talk about it a little bit.
I do, but it doesn't solve the problem of attracting tournament play. If you look at other.
So, but what I'm saying is that it's not always what the building sits on, which it does matter, but the county will look at the roof, how much roof the building and such has. When the raindrop comes down, it hits, where does it go and where does it end up? And that's the whole thing. And once you've maxed out your percentage of how much you can develop on your land, because you're limited by a certain percentage. The county has their rules, Ocean Pines has theirs. But it's truly for stormwater management. And I think that's where they're having a difficult time getting a bigger footprint because of that specific issue. So if we were to take what we have and go through and see if we could possibly move things elsewhere, or do something, or come up with a new layout inside, or I don't know, I'd be glad to help you there. But does any of this that he proposed today appeal to you? I mean, I like the fire pit idea. I like those heaters. What's your 2 cents?
I'd like to be able to. Okay.
Yeah. Larry and then John.
Listen, I think it's clear that the board and John, over the last 2 years, we've decided to focus on the Racket Center. I think we all recognize that it is a gem, and just as we did with the golf course, improving the conditions there has improved revenue. But I think John made it pretty clear. I think John made it pretty clear that there are issues regarding the permitting, as Josette has said. And I would fully support giving them a bigger space down there. But I think at this point, we let John find out what we can and can't do, because I don't think we know at this point. A year and a half ago, we moved forward with deciding to put in the paddleball courts, and the presentation that was made by the director at that point was yeah, the permits are no problem, permits are no problem. Well, when it came down to it, permits were a big problem. As we know, what was it, last month or December, we just got the permits because of the problem. So my suggestion, and again, don't misunderstand me, I would fully support putting in a larger warming hut if we can do it, because it's not that much money. We have the money to do it, but let's let John find out whether or not we can even do it. And if not, then I think that his approach to putting the heaters underneath the eaves is probably the best way to go, or even one of those stand-up heaters that you see at the restaurants all the time.
Yeah, and before I give you the floor, John, I want to make a comment. We do recognize that is an untapped gem. And we do want all of our amenities to get to the point where they are contributing to the bottom line and helping fund some of the operations for the rest of the non-revenue generating portions of our organization. What I would like to see happen is certainly for John to find out what is possible permit-wise, but also to look at the overall facility. We need to grow tennis. We need to, pickleball is exploding. They're probably in good shape. We certainly need to grow this sport. And given the limits to our footprint, I think, and the fact that none of the components in that of the capital assets at that site are up for replacement at this point. I'd like to see John look at the overall picture and look at developing an overall business plan to grow that amenity. Certainly receiving input from the racket sports community, who are some of our subject matter experts in the community, who I know will be willing to step up and volunteer their time to work with him if he asks for it. And that I agree with Larry that we should do the heating, what we can do to make things more comfortable and usable now, but to come out in the end with a facility that is going to wow those people who might want to come here to join the sport, and even for tournaments, and to attract outside play like we do at the golf course. So John, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Thank you, Colette. Actually, well said. First of all, Amy, the passion and everything's fantastic. And Josette was spot on. She said what I was going to say. Same thing with Larry, same there. It's a process. Right now, we got those pickleball courts. Larry spelled it all out, what we went through. It's a process, and let's go methodically through this. We did things that hadn't been done down there for 7 years, if not longer. Fixed the fences, fixed the courts, full-time maintenance person there for tennis and everything else. We did some work there. We did work on those paddleball courts. Not disagreeing for a building. I mean, one time they came in, they wanted, 20 by 40 foot. How big was it? 20 by 20? I don't know. If I go in there, if I went to the county with that, right. We need to understand what we can do, to your point. And I want to do that. Let's fix it up. Let's get the outside area. You can see all the people are there. I'd like to benchmark with other paddleball court. I know somebody's volunteering to do that. We've talked about that. You have the main building there. Let's look at that first. I mean, and let's see what I'm recommending, what the team's recommending, and let's see how that works out.
Larry?
And Amy, we talked about this during the budget and finance meeting, or the budget meetings, I'm sorry. And one of the points I forgot to address that I think we should consider is one of the points you made, and that the committee is making, this is a valid point, that it needs to be in a location where it can say, well, I thought about that, and with everything we're doing, why we could put cameras in and have the location somewhere else. That is, where maybe if we incorporated this whole thing into the building, into a new building, then, a TV and cameras will keep if I understand it correctly, the players need to see the progress of the games and when they're ready to go and play. So having the location right where it's at, I'm not so sure that's absolutely necessary, but it's just another thing that we can think about. Right. But I agree with John that you know, and I've been in a lot of meetings down at that building with the, being on the board of the Veterans Memorial. We had a lot of our meetings down there. And that's probably the next building that we really should take a look at to see what we can and can't do.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, are you done?
So,
Yeah, so I agree with you, Larry, and that's one of the reasons that I was trying to get the opportunity to benchmark and see what other similar facilities have done to give, because there are a lot of creative ideas that could come out of that would work for the limitations that we have with our footprint.
The Racket Committee feels very strongly that the location where it is now is the proper location. And if you play the sport, it really does need to be right next to the courts. It's that way at any other racket facility. So I guess if you could find how big of a spot we have there for permitting, and
yes,
if we can make it bigger than 14 by 20, I'm sure they would be fine with that too.
but let's finish what we're doing. Let's evaluate. Nobody, of course we want it. There's a way to do it and there's a way to do it. And we've been on a course, we've had a plan, and let's just stay that plan. And it'll probably work out. A little later, maybe. In the meantime, let's see how all this other stuff works out. Let's see.
Yeah, we don't want a repeat of what happened at the golf course, that we jump in and spend $500,000 on renovations and then find that that wasn't the right way to
But
go.
it did even something better.
Yeah, then we ended up with something way better.
I'd like to see even something better. I mean, I'm not saying not to do this.
Right.
There's a process here. There's a balance.
Did you want to weigh in? Is that all right? Can I?
There was an opportunity at public comments.
Okay.
Okay.
Amy, I'm available during the week if you and or the lady wants to come in and listen. Absolutely.
All right.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the next item, which is the electronic signs discussion topic. And this topic I'm submitting to discuss the board's wishes with respect to going forward with the initiative to place two electronic information signs, one at the north gate and one at the south gate. And this is to determine the next steps in consideration of replacement of information signs within the community with electronic signs. And so, as background, we need to be reminded that the association and the Communications Advisory Committee put a lot of work into collaborating with Worcester County to pass a text amendment that even allows this within the boundaries of Ocean Pines. And the objective was to replace as many as 8 of the older signs, but to start with 2. Problem with the old signs is they require manual insertion of the letters for the messages. It's inefficient time-wise and manpower-wise. It places physical risk on the individual doing that job because of the way those signs are constructed. And the goal is to make it easier to maintain current information on the signs through the use of the electronic information transmission. I did not take the opportunity to speak with Chief Arisman, but I did speak with Chief Massey when this project got started, and he was fully in support of this concept from a public safety standpoint because of the ability for these signs to get timely information out to the community related to safety concerns. We did receive a lot of information from John today. I can see that there's additional information that we need to get before the board is ready to vote on a motion. But I wanted to put it out to the board for discussion at this point so we can determine any other next steps from the board's perspective. Larry?
Yeah, the one piece of information that I got from John's presentation that I didn't have before is that all the other signs have to go. Right. So for us to consider doing 2, I don't think is appropriate. After hearing that, my thought is that we would need at least 5 and maybe 6. But I think, we would need a sign going out to the point. We need a sign at either the opening at the south gate. I think we need a sign at the yacht club. I think we need a sign for the country club and one here for the admin building. And whether or not we put another one at the north gate, we're talking 5 or 6 signs. So I don't think two, if we're gonna rip the rest of them down, I don't think 2 is adequate, and that changes the math on this thing tremendously.
Right.
Frank?
Just a couple of things. Right at the moment, I'm agnostic on the proposal, but I want the committee to address 4 specific questions that I had before I got the information, okay? And let me kind of go through. I mean, I can see, in my mind, 4 reasons for replacing the existing signs. One reason is they're old, they're designed in the 70s. We live in 2022, we live in a digital age. We just want something new. Okay, I'm okay with that. Second is improved messaging. The third is cost. And the 4th issue is emergency notification. So if they're old and the committee wants to replace them because they're old, just say they're old. Okay, I'm okay with that. Improved messaging. Today I drove from my house to this meeting and I passed 3 of the old signs. I saw 3 different messages. One's more or less near Boston Road, one's at the yacht club, and one's at the golf course. Okay? If we would have followed exactly the committee's recommendation and what the county has told us to do, I would have seen no messages. Not 3 different messages. I would have seen 0 messages. Okay? Other point specifically to address cost. I did a rough calculation. Now, granted, I was in Florida enjoying the sun, but I figured if we have to maintain the existing signs takes 1 person 1 day a week. And John can verify that when we come to make a motion on this, exactly how much money we spend. But I ran the calculation and said 1 existing person, 1 day a week, 52 weeks a year, and that person makes $50,000 a year. If that's the case, if we're after cost savings, the payback on these signs is 26 years. And there are other projects in the community, quite frankly, demanding capital, like the racket sports, that the payback's going to be, I would guess, a lot less than 26 years.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's not a showstopper, but it is an issue because, it's like there's X amount of food to feed called dollars to a lot of hungry mouths in the association. Okay? And the 4th thing is emergency notification. Okay? Even if you go with the 6 signs that Larry suggested, I have this question. Between 8 o'clock at night and basically 6 o'clock in the morning, how much exact emergency notification are you going to get? Compare that to 2 examples that I had, just one within the last week and one, I guess, more or less a year ago, when I was down in Florida, my cell phone all of a sudden exploded, like some of the cell phones explode here, and it said Amber Alert. Okay? Florida license tag, blah, 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 blah. Okay? 1999 Lexus, LS 300. A year or so ago, I was driving through Pennsylvania and, same thing, the car radio exploded and it said, imminent tornado threat, take cover. Okay? So I looked up these emergency systems and they're available on campuses and they're available with geographic fences and they're tied into 911. So if we're talking spending $200,000 and we're saying it's for emergency notification, would we be better to spend $300,000 and put in something that would explode every cell phone in Ocean Pines at 3 o'clock in the morning with a specific message?
Okay. Joseph, John?
No, go ahead, sir.
So, look, first of all, I agree. 2's not going to do it. And you are going to, that's why I put that on and I'm positive, and Josh is double checking, but they will have to come down. That was part of the agreement. If they had different information, that's not a reason to go with the electronic signs. That's execution, and that's on me, and that'll be corrected. And I know they're not on it. But just again, with the number of signs, they need one for the yacht club. That already came up. So 2's not going to cut it, I agree. And, with today, with your cell phones, with internet and all that, there's plenty of electronic information and everything. But, if the board says to go forward with this, of course, I march on it. It has some benefits, but there are a lot of things to look at. And you're right, two's not going to cut it. The number's going to be well over 200,000.
Josette?
Well, I would agree. My first thought was 2 signs, but I don't disagree with the fact that, the traffic, it depends where you're coming from, so a lot of us don't travel much and we won't see it unless we're going in and out of the community. So I'm kind of leaning towards Larry's thought of how many signs we would need in general. There's a lot to consider in those additional areas, which light pollution is a big one for me, so I get that. But I like the idea. Years ago, we did look into, when we first started researching this, about emergency responses via phone versus all that. Because some of that may have been or may not have been available to us already through North Star, stuff like that. But it was never implemented. These signs, the discussion started to try to better reach our younger community that comes in and out every day, that goes to pick up their children at schools, that helps support the rest of us that will soon be retired. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a give and take on all ends. So I think that, this, I am for the signs. How many is to be debated, I think, and I would be for them. Because we do, I think with this, with other additional means of communicating with the community via email, if we got that information, if it provided some of that, a lot of things could be, could be a double thing that gets sent out when something happens. But, I kind of like it. And I've only been here 8 years, and I'm going to tell you, and I hope the police isn't out there and maybe still is. I don't drive fast to the community. My mother-in-law drilled in her head, do not go past this, or since we've started visiting in 2003. But I never can read the entire sign going through, and it's a joke. I'll be like, oh, wait. And then as we come back, I got it. And that's me, and that's 56 years of age in my eyes. I can't imagine trying to get the whole message through, for my in-laws. They must just be like, it's bingo night. I don't know when, but like that, because this is, I don't want to, I'm doing that. And I'm like, wow, well, that could be very distracting as well. And I've never been hit in the head with the glass that they put up to put the letters in. But it's got to be an experience of the one that goes out there. So to me, it's a safety measure all the way, because if I got to hit my brakes to read that sign and Buddy's too close to me because he's not the good Samaritan like me, now I got to call my insurance and I'm not going to be happy. So there's a lot to consider. So I appreciate the conversation. Our committee, I am part of the communications committee, but that's how my introduction came to the community. I did want to get involved. I was very much involved in a committee which used to be called CERN, which was Community Emergency Network Response, and I learned a lot about how to reach your neighbors, the elderly neighbors and such when there's an emergency. So to me, that was my focus for my life. I'm going to call it the family, but my neighborhood where I came from in Howard County, the elderly that were there. And I can't say that less is more in those situations. We have to be able to reach the folks. And these discussions are so important because in a blink of an eye, something can happen and we need to be able to reach the younger community. B, it'll keep them engaged in, oh, Saturday, this is happening. Because if they're like me, and, I don't know, and I'm only doing 35, and that's me. So I'm for this, but numbers, at the end of the day are important. They're not my numbers, they're our community numbers. So we have to put our heads together and come up with the best solution for all.
Okay. Doug?
Yeah, I think had I not heard what John had mentioned with regard to the fact that the other signs need to be removed as part of this endeavor, I was ready to move forward. But it harkens the question of how people consume information. All right, I think we're making somewhat of an assumption that their primary source of information are those signs. And I would argue that maybe that's not a valid assumption to base a very costly decision on. Frank, until you'd mentioned it, I hadn't really put that together, but that's probably something that we ought to look into with regard to compare and contrast. In other words, and I would agree that maybe only 2 signs could be a problem. I'm not sure, but I can go along with that just for sake of discussion. The idea would be look at that as a solution and then look at the other emergency notification type services and see where that leads us. Because, given the website, given the email blast, given the other methods for reaching out to the community, I'm not sure that, and I would really be interested if we took a survey to see what's your primary source of information about Ocean Pines. And I'm not sure that those, marquees would be number one. All right. So perhaps what our homework should be is to look at that and really gather that kind of information and say that we're considering such a large investment that, we should really do a little bit more homework and really see to, because again, this has got to be sustainable, not just for now, but for some period of time, especially with that level of investment. So, my idea would be let's really try to understand how people consume information, what their primary source of information for, and add that to our list of things that we consider before we make a decision.
I'd like to add, Josh, if you chime in, because I know you know these numbers, but the committee actually looked at specific data, how many people would hear information through the radio, through the television, through the emails, etc., and they really broke it down so that for us to try to understand and make decisions of what we felt was best. So a lot of the data is probably already available, and hopefully he'll be able to give it and share it with you.
Sure.
And
Yeah, that was.
you know what I mean? Because we discussed all of this to try to figure it out. Do you have an input?
That was part of the 2018 survey that happened before my time. I don't remember the numbers specifically, but I can share the number one source of information at that time was the Bayside Gazette, which I definitely used in my hiring pitch to John. And it worked. So we brought that approach to communications here.
No cost
I don't
solution.
recall the rest of the breakdown, but that is online on the committee page. Also, Cheryl Jacobs has a hand up.
Okay, Cheryl.
Can she talk?
Yes, suspend the rules.
Suspend Robert's rules, Cheryl. She's the chair of the committee. Cheryl?
Thank you. Yes, thank you for recognizing me. I'm very happy to listen to all of the concerns that have been raised. And one of the things that I think is important that we need to get clarity from the county on, it wasn't my understanding that if we put in 1 or 2 to begin with, all of the rest of them had to come down immediately. It can be a process, as I understood it, but we need to get clarity on that because that's an important point.
Yeah.
We did understand that more than 1 or 2 signs was necessary, and that's why we got permission to go up to the number of 8. And that's not to say that in the future, if we understand from history of using them, that more than 8 might be required. But we took the first step, and I do think that we need to go back to the county and get clarity, however, on that particular issue of if we start the process, do all of the other ones have to come down immediately, or is it a process over time? So that's an important point. But thank you very much for all of the other points that you're making, and the committee will take those under consideration and give you feedback on all of that.
Thank you, Cheryl.
So
can I weigh in real quick?
Josh?
Sorry, I did talk to Jennifer Keener, the Director of Review and Permitting for Worcester County, and she told me this week that if we got 1, we'd have to take down all the old ones.
Okay. Is that what you were?
If you want, checked.
Okay.
Thank you, Josh.
I had a question. Is there like a subscription service for this? And can each sign have a different message? Or what are the logistics of how you get the message on the sign? So if we have 8 signs, can we continue to have 8 different messages?
Josette, do you know the answer to that question?
Yes. Yeah, it's all manned by a computer.
Okay.
Basically, you could.
And is there like a subscription service? Like, is there a cost? Once, besides the signs, is there additional cost to keep changing the messages?
Well, like anything, I'm sure there's software affiliated with it and an upgrade and et cetera, but I don't have those specifics. Josh, can you weigh in on this?
Yeah, you're correct. It is software, and it's something that we would do in-house. We would be changing the messaging. It's my understanding each sign can be different, but our intention would likely be to have just a rotating series of messages. If we did want to have something different in front of the yacht club, my understanding is that we could do that.
And it would be owned in-house, that software?
Correct.
It would not be owned.
Correct.
Doug?
Just, well, I know we're kind of going through this. Just one more thing. Is there any restriction on using the signs for advertising and potential revenue generating?
I think there was.
There is.
There is?
Yes.
Is there a restriction on that?
That's in the text amendment, Frank.
Josh, question for you. You said that this is software. Right now, who would we anticipate creating those messages and posting them?
Julie and myself.
Okay, so let me ask this question, which I would expect the committee to address when they come forth with a motion. If it's an emergency that occurs between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 a.m., how does that emergency notification get posted?
He would have access to the software from home and change it from there.
Yeah, but my point is, again, if we want an emergency notification system, the way that it works is this. Somebody puts an Amber Alert into the police, the 911 center puts the Amber Alert on their computer, and it goes to everybody immediately, within a minute. Okay? If we're talking less than that for an emergency, and emergencies to me are life-threatening, okay? Amber Alert, Silver Alert, Tornado Watch, tsunami coming off the coast. We need something tied in with an emergency center that gets the message out to everybody pretty doggone quick.
So Frank, I think you raise an important point about the what's the function of these signs primarily going to be. So that's another question, I think, for the committee to address. And I will report that the homeowner survey that we just did, electronic signs did not rise to the top of the pile of things that people were interested in. But I think the previous survey, the responses to that survey were tied to the way the question was asked. And I'm not sure that that's the right question. And so we do have the capability in-house to do a targeted survey. And, your committee could work with Josh to put together what's necessary to get that information about how people consume emergency information about Ocean Pines, however, you phrase it. But I think there are two things that we're talking about here is emergency information versus information about activities and non-emergency stuff that would be posted. So it sounds, Larry.
And to address Frank's point, I mean, maybe it's possible to give the police department access so that they would be able to post those things.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's a lot.
That goes back to.
Yeah, there's a lot of operational stuff that could be worked out, but the key issue at this point, and I don't think we're ready to vote on anything here, is to determine exactly, have the committee come back with a recommendation, understanding that all the signs have to get down, how many signs they feel will accomplish getting information out. And again, and I really wasn't looking at this so much as an emergency thing, Frank. I was looking at it basically the way we have it today. It's informational.
PR.
Yeah, but your point is well taken. It certainly could be used in those circumstances. And then the committee come back with a recommendation. And then if we want to, move forward and make a vote on it at that point. But I think we have to understand this is going to be a very expensive proposition, as we discussed from the very beginning of this thing.
Yeah, and I think the relative need needs to be looked at too. the need for upgrade to our emergency notification system and the need for information about activities. And I think there have been looks at the cost of an emergency notification, text type notification system, but that may be something else you want to take to the committee to consider, that these are two competing purposes perhaps that are not going to be able to be addressed in the same way.
Yeah, and I believe we had looked at some of that, and I don't want to speak out of turn. I felt like there was something, we had some capabilities with North Star and
yeah,
that ORT group, and there was some, and I don't know any of that background. So maybe we'll revisit it and see if we can come up with some, firm points to debate so that we have all the information in front of us.
Okay, so thank you. And next item on the agenda is motion to go into closed session.
You want to do the appointments first?
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot those appointments. Sorry, I'm not looking at my agenda. So we have appointments, Chair of Aquatics Committee, Ellen Hench, Chair of Environmental and Natural Assets Committee, Sharon Santacroce, Stephen Jacobs, Golf Advisory Committee member, and Becky Leonard we want to appoint her.
Rec and Parks.
And Park.
And then you got Robert
And
Windsor
can
on
we,
here for-
yeah, can we,
You got Robert Windsor on here for second term elections.
I don't have that. Robert Windsor, second term elections.
It's on the agenda.
Okay, I guess my copy of the agenda is not up to date. Sorry. So can we agree that we'll vote on all of those together? Could I have a motion to vote on all of those as a single appointment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, and the next item is motion to adjourn to closed session. And this motion is to go into closed session for the purposes of consideration of the terms or conditions of a business transaction and for the purpose of consultation with counsel on legal matters specifically pertaining to contracting with a search firm for the GM position and pertaining to the court's ruling on the Farr versus OPA lawsuit as permitted by the Maryland Homeowners Association Act, Section 11B, 111(3) and 6. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You voted, Richard?
Yes, I was all in
Okay,
favor.
thank you. Okay, so the motion carries. No abstentions? Okay. So we will adjourn to closed session. It is 11:27, Josette. And then after there's no predicting how long this closed session meeting will go, but we will come back into open session afterward. And if there are any actions taken as a result, those will be announced or motions will be voted upon. And if you're not here, those actions will be announced to the public. So you're free to hang around or free to go as you wish.
But you can't hang out in
But you
here.
can't hang out in.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for attending.